Mel.
Yeah, we can't even,
You know, maybe we
we ain't gonna have a meeting tonight. Mel right here. Yeah, I had some work done and I
did he? I've been seeing him every day. I didn't see him this morning.
It happened Thursday.
but I ain't
Thursday, this thing's going on. He's in.
running for office out here.
I'm the vice chair.
I'm gonna ask you that question every time we have a meeting. You're running for office. I'll forget.
Next time it'll be over.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not gonna stay on the school board?
Well, I would ask the attorney, but I'm assuming you gotta have,
Where's the attorney at?
I'm assuming you gotta have at least 3 out of 5. Have you heard from Al?
I hadn't heard from
Which
Mel.
one
no.
pays more?
We are live, just letting everybody know. Since it's 5. I did have a
We have to have 3 out of 5 members, and we don't.
Yeah, 2 voting members.
Yeah.
Colin Mel?
If I
Okay.
hold the meeting,
Well, I think we can have a meeting as long as we don't vote on anything. Do we have anything to vote
Yeah,
on tonight?
we have, yeah, that's the lots.
Mel Davis.
and we're out.
So who are we missing?
Mel,
Mel and the new guy.
new, we know Kevin won't be here. He's here?
Who's the new guy?
So there's 5 members.
He's
plus-
not here.
Mel's here.
I mean, who is
It's, the guy that runs,
Who's here?
our
Mel here. Mel's here.
investment down there on Walnut Street.
Well, we've got
Okay.
3 out of 5.
Jones.
Just kinda.
I'd have to
We have a chair.
welcome to it.
You'll have to switch chair. Oh, Mel's here. We're good.
Just wanna make sure Mel.
Right. Should we play music when he comes in?
Hearts and flowers. This
Didn't have trouble.
is it me? You gotta buy everything.
How about you?
Teacher say you gotta make sure everybody else gets something.
Why pretend?
Glad you ate it, Mel.
Yeah, thanks.
Mel, we would never start without you.
Oh, yes, you would.
We couldn't.
Is everyone ready?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to call this April 8th Lawrenceburg Redevelopment Commission to order. Roll call.
Executive Director Brian Messmore,
Here.
Chairman Mel Davis,
Here.
Vice Chairman Randy Abner,
Here.
Member Owen Cross,
Here.
Member Paul Seymour Sr.,
Present.
Member Kevin Schaefer is absent, Lawrenceburg School Board Member Brian Johnson, City Attorney Del Weldon,
Here.
and also, Chairman, I'd like to see if we could get a motion to nominate a secretary at this time.
Okay.
Who's not here? That's who I nominate.
So you nominate Kevin,
Yes.
okay? So,
I'll second his motion on.
okay.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Brutal.
Any opposed?
You didn't wanna be that, did you?
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you not, sir.
Thank you.
I love it.
Mr. Chairman,
So,
on behalf of the new secretary, I would just like to say that prior to his acceptance on the board, he had previously scheduled commitments, and that was the only reason he wasn't able to attend.
Well, he doesn't have to accept, Mr. Messmore. He has been voted in.
That's how it works around here.
Yeah. We have 2 sets of minutes, I believe, to approve. Have the March 27th, have a work session on April 1st.
You want a nomination for both or,
Moved for both minutes to be accepted.
so moved?
second.
Second, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Do we have any announcements?
I do have one announcement. I would like for the board to consider an executive session on the week of 4/29 to discuss the contracts that we're currently in negotiations with and to bring our new board member up to date on those contracts.
That's April 29th?
That week, we will coordinate schedules.
What,
time?
what time?
We could do it right now this time. That's the 5th Monday of the month, I think. I think it's a free Monday. But we will confirm that and advertise it appropriately.
Okay. Any other announcements? Financial report?
As of April 1st, the balance for redevelopment is $2,645,770.73. And after promised monies towards projects, it's $1,601,022.73.
Any question? Excuse me, any questions? New business? Seeing none. Old business, Steel Properties. Sure. Go ahead.
This is, you know, I'm deep into these houses. I mean, I've been, you know, into it since 2008. Took a lot of risks, borrowed a lot of money, and it's a good program. You guys just months ago just put in place to where we've upped the ante. We're trying to get better houses. We're offering money up to a certain amount of money. It's all good. I like it. But if we're going to up the ante, I think we should be thinking more of what we want now of these houses. Now, I've got a pretty big complaint. I've got 4 houses that went in behind me. This weekend was a nice weekend. All the neighbors were out. I was out back, had one of them grilling out, one of them working on his bikes, did a lot of talking with them. I want to clear something up with you guys and people that build and people in the audience. When a contractor builds a home, and when he gets his certificate of occupancy, that allows the people to move in that house. The city does not take over, and Mr. Weldon can back me up on this. We do not take over all responsibility of that house once that inspection is done. That's not our duty now to guarantee that person's house. We've got one that was told by the builder that, hey, the city has signed off on it. I got the building certificate of occupancy, and I'm done. Anything that this city needs to do, it's their responsibility. Now, I believe that we were kind enough to go over, and I believe we're in the process of trying to fix that water. But that water wasn't the only thing, I guess. And what I'm stating is that, look, guys, we have all put a lot in this housing effort, and we're all proud of it. If we got a builder that comes in here and doesn't want to march to the tune that we want him to march, I don't want him getting a house, period. I'm going to state it right now. If he doesn't make a presentation to where it doesn't have the financials when he turns it in, we shouldn't have to twist his arm to make a good presentation. He needs to come in here and make his best effort, because if he doesn't, we don't need him. We can get other people. Now, I haven't been doing this. I don't want one of the lots. That's not the reason why I'm saying this. I built 35 homes, and we've tried to please everybody. It ain't easy, I realize that, but not one time ever have I taken my responsibility and put it on somebody else. When these guys come in and build a home, it's their responsibility, and we should want these new homeowners to be welcome to Lawrenceburg and get the house and be treated like we want. So all I'm asking you guys to do, the reason why I stood up here, is because you do have power. You do have the ability to work with whoever you want, to ask for the little things. If you're not happy with the drawing and you don't want if you want to make some suggestions, make them. But we've got a very small problem, it could have been corrected, and I bet you 9 out of 10 or a 99 out of 100 builders would have done it.
What's the problem, Paul?
It's just puddling water in a yard. There's ways to fix it. The
Low
city
spots?
right now is making an attempt to do it.
Low spots or?
Well, Mel, the problem is we're not supplied by stormwater all over town. This town wasn't set up, Mike, to take downspouts on every street, was it?
We're a lot better now than
That's and a lot of these yards are low, and they're, you know, when you get a puddle that's a 12 by 12 circle and you don't have anywhere to take it, there's things you can do. But the one thing I don't want done is someone saying, hey, it's not my responsibility. I want our builders to make our people happy. I mean, we've raised the ante, we've done things, so my point to you guys is don't think that you know, we need to make everybody do what they need to do. That's all I got.
Any other comments? Mr. Messmore, Steel Properties, lot proposal.
I don't see Mr. Steele in the room, so we can table his request this evening.
Okay.
I see Mr. Staub in the room. I was going to recommend that Mr. Staub receive the property at 501 Arch this evening. And to, you know, Paul's comments, we were going to ask that he also, it was the same with both builders, that we're going to ask for just a little more description of some landscaping, and if the on the Margaret Street side of that house, if that's going to be facing Arch, it's a 501 Arch address, on the Margaret Street side, maybe have some landscaping along that wall just to break up that curb and make that appeal a little better.
I believe what we talked about.
Yeah, so, and I would have had some of the same comments for the other property as well. So unless Mr. Staub has any other comments this evening, I'm recommending that we award 501 Arch to Staub Construction.
Do we have a motion?
I had some questions, but I forgot them. You made such a good proposal.
Did you
run.
actually give me a comment?
You run me. So moved.
Motion made to award the property at 501 Arch Street to Staub Construction. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion, as long as we go with the additional stuff that we talked about, landscaping
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
And just, you know, to reflect on Paul's comments, on, this would have been 300 Margaret, the property that Mr. Steele was interested in. I have sketched in, but we've asked for a larger porch along the front to provide better curb appeal, and similar requests for landscaping around the front and along the Margaret Street side of the house. And both of these properties, with the noted improvements, would have to meet all the local codes. And in these two particular properties, talked to Mr. Clark about stormwater access, because there is access to storm for these properties.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Go ahead.
He and I just talked, and I told him that he'll get one lot, and as that lot is approved for occupancy, he can come back for another lot, but we're only gonna give out one at a time anymore, right?
That's correct. That's the board's wish, and that's fine.
We have a motion and a second.
I'll second.
No, you made the
All
motion.
in favor?
He forgot
Already
that
made the
too.
motion. You're good. You did.
All in favor?
did.
Any opposed?
And I would also ask that we table the Steel property for, because he is not here, and I would prefer that he be here to take questions from the board.
Motion to table the other property, please.
I'll make that motion. I'm awake.
Second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to table the steel proposal for 300 Margaret Street. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Brian Messmore, Main Street update.
Well, it's in your packets as always, and as always, Pat's here to ask any specific questions that you may have regarding the Lawrenceburg Redevelopment Commission and Main Street Investment Program. It's going pretty well.
Any questions from the board? Mike Knoll, Athletic Club proposal.
Thanks, Your Honor. If there's any questions, I think we've gone over quite a bit of this. I did get some revisions back. I did get some additional numbers. My total number right now is just under 300,000, 298, 314 to be exact. That's with a lot of work on the outside of the structure itself as well, and inside the structure. I'm not sure what other questions you may have for me or something else that.
Did you have a
Yeah.
proposal? A written proposal, or did you just all?
He had a drawing that was in
Yeah, there was-
previous, maybe 2 packets
Fe-
ago,
February,
but there wasn't an actual like written up
Right.
proposal. Yeah.
This is his 3rd meeting.
Yeah, I remember the last one anyway.
right.
No,
Then
actually,
you had some additions because you got a sprinkler. you had a
I have
sprinkler guy
issues
come
with
in and-
with the fire protection. I either have to change the design of it, so it's all the materials in certain areas that I'm using are all non-combustible. So that would change the whole first floor of some design work that was even more expensive than what I came back with.
Mr. Messmore?
Mike, you do realize that if you are awarded any monies, they won't be available until you get the project done?
That's correct, yes. I didn't expect anything other than that, other than when I got the new CO after it was inspected and new certificate.
Mr. Messmore, do you have any comments about this project?
Well, I think I'm on the record for this particular project, and I will also say I was on the same record for the Low Miller project. I believe that, we had agreed that we would work on the properties surrounding the park and the downtown area with the investment program, and that to vary from that strategy without any definitions of programs for lending or for granting money outside of that area, I think is a risk to the board and to our exposure. I've said before, if the board feels there's an opportunity out there to help local businesses, small businesses, then we should sit down and define the parameters of the program, what we're willing to grant, and how that would work. Otherwise, I think we're opening the door for anybody on Route 50 to walk in the door and ask for money. And I will add to that we don't even know exactly how much our investment will be in the properties that surround the park. So it's very difficult for me. It was very difficult for me, again, on the Low Miller project, to support that for those reasons. Again, not a
Been here a long time, and he's been in business a long time. He's got employees.
If we do something, and it's, your decision, but I would suggest that we talk about a program with, like we do with the, administered by the Redevelopment Commission, but where we have limits on our exposure for those opportunities. Set aside a certain amount of money. Let's say, for example, $200,000 up to $50,000 dollar for dollar match for an existing business who's been in business for a number of years. Whatever those parameters are, I believe it's in the best interest of Lawrenceburg long term to have that program defined and limited dollars associated with those things.
How long would it be before we had that plan in place?
We can start pounding it out and have a work session, start pounding it out.
Could we work on some of that on the 29th? Talk about it?
I don't think we can do that in there, but we could schedule a work session afterwards. Again, I'm not saying I'm against the project. I think there's a downside to not defining what our objectives are and what our target areas are.
Well, Mike was asking, what was it, 35%?
That's correct.
Do you have a 35% of the 298,000 in your head?
No.
100.
Do you?
Is it $104,409?
Well, I was
Mm.
How much?
104,000.
$104,409.
Even 20% would be wonderful. I mean, at this point, I've got to move on, and with due respect to what Mr. Messmore's comments, you know, I came in February. There hasn't been anything other than what you've done in the past or what you've done, I guess, as far as out on 50 before. I guess, you know, I'm just asking for the same thing when I first approached and filed the petition, which was in February. So
Personally, what I had in mind was 15%. I don't know what anybody feels like that.
We have another question or comment. Mr. Snyder?
Tom Schneider. I live on High Street. I'd like to comment, number one, I totally disagree with the executive director. This is the town city of Lawrenceburg. It's just not downtown, it's all of it. The city started this industrial park when, I don't know how long ago, but Mike had put one of the first buildings in there. So the other thing is, in this administration, $400,000 was granted on Mike Lawrence's old building, $600,000 to $700,000 for the shopping center, $100,000, I believe, was the total for Nugent Tractor. None of this is downtown, none of it. So now all of a sudden he wants to say, no, we got downtown or we got whatever. There's a definite need for what Mike wants to do. Okay, just within a week ago, someone asked a question with regard to a building that they had purchased in downtown. And they just asked the question, how many people are out there that want one office or two offices, and it was inundated. There's 20, 30 comments. There is no room for anyone to bring a one or two man company in Lawrenceburg. There is none, okay? So if you're looking at, you just, Lawrenceburg, everybody on the hill and the companies on Industrial Drive, they're paying taxes, okay? Good taxes. So they deserve just as much consideration as downtown, and I live downtown. Okay? So there are people, companies, one, two man, looking for space all over this town. And if the port comes, okay, it's going to be worse. You're not going to be able to have them. People are going to be in northern Kentucky. People are going to be all over the place because there's no space. So that's why I urge you to consider Mike's project. Thank you.
Mr. Clausen?
At the last Utility Service Board meeting, first of all, name's Lon Clausen, Utility Director for the City of Lawrenceburg, for better or for worse. But at the last Utility Service Board meeting, we talked about a number of needs that we had as a utility, some of them being administrative offices and some of them being office space for the crews that we have working for us. We aren't, irrespective of the fact that we serve every meter in Lawrenceburg, we don't have a lot of employees. I've got 12 employees in the electrical department. We engaged an engineering firm to kind of do an assessment, again, irrespective of who owned the buildings or the property, to see what parcels or what places would be theoretically appropriate for us to have a business that would allow truck traffic, big and small, and also employees up to, 12 or 15 like we currently have. Believe it or not, the downtown area of Lawrenceburg is not conducive to that type of a business, especially with larger trucks. It might be for coffee shops, restaurants, things like this, or office space, kind of like what we have here, but it's not really appropriate for a service side industry that has trucks and warehouse needs and those kinds of things. I'm a friend of Mr. Knowles. He was the guy that rented me an apartment when I first moved here. I want to say that because what the engineering firm came down with had nothing to do with that relationship. It's completely devoid of that. But his property, along with a couple of others, came back as prime pieces of property that would house a business such as ours. And so I think that Tom hit on a couple key points, is that if you're looking at businesses that are force multipliers, that provide services, construction companies, things of that nature, they're not typically going to be located in the downtown area. They're going to need more space than that. And so to just say that we're just going to concentrate on redevelopment being in the downtown area, I'm not a redevelopment specialist, but that seems a little counterintuitive and counterproductive to me, because the most bang for our buck in terms of jobs and revenue is probably outside of this core downtown area, especially when you're talking about the construction side of things. And so I just wanted to remind the board that Mr. Knoll's property was one of the properties that we identified as a key piece of property that could be useful for an industry that had employees of about 10 to 12 to 15 people, that had the ability to pull a truck in and off the streets, unload trucks, dock type services, those kinds of things, as well as the property adjacent. I forget the guy that owns it. He works for the city, but it's next to the utility building on 106. And that's not saying that they want to sell those properties. We just looked at properties that would be a good fit for industry. And so I have to think that those matrix hold true, whether the industry's the utility company or a new business that might, in fact, want to locate over in Hebron, or might go up the road to Harrison, Ohio, or one of these things. And so I would just say that the park's a great thing, and businesses downtown are a great thing. But in terms of sheer revenues and impact in terms of employees and businesses, there's probably more hay to be made outside of the downtown area for those kinds of companies than in the downtown. That's all I had to say.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple comments. Imagine that. Appreciate your input. I would just, again, remind you that we are redevelopment, and those larger projects that were done out there was a combined project with council, and we looked at those like economic development opportunities. We would not turn down an economic development opportunity outside of the downtown area. We would not turn that discussion down and forego that for any reason whatsoever. So don't think that we're not looking for economic development opportunities all over Lawrenceburg, all over the county to that matter, and would entertain anything of any significance whatsoever. I'm merely asking that as the Redevelopment Commission, that we have some protection in terms of our exposure. We do have, it is money, maybe I'm a little more conservative, but on some of these smaller projects, smaller requests out there, I would rather have a program. it's a collective decision. Whatever we decide, I'll support and work hard to accomplish. I'm just presenting that side of it.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Oh, I got a motion.
Any other questions for me?
Better sit down. My motion's gonna be to offer Mr. Knoll 15%. He's waited 2 or 3 months now, and get it off the books. I don't think that's out of reason. He's, just like Tom said, he's been there a while, and he's a businessman, so.
Okay, we have a motion to offer Mr. Knoll 15% of the total cost. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion. I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for 15%. Approval of the claims.
Your Honor, before we get to that,
Oh,
please,
sure.
as a commission, well, I just have one announcement under old business. So we executed before the meeting, Mr. Messmore on your behalf and Mr. Lowmiller on behalf of Lowmiller Enterprises executed the agreement that we approved. And Andrew and I met to go over that before the meeting. And one point of clarification, I just want to make sure that we're all aware of. The agreement per the presentation that he made to us calls for payment of the contribution, 1/2 at closing on the property and 1/2 at certificate of occupancy. So right now he's kind of doing his due diligence. He's got an option to buy the property, so we wouldn't pay anything until he actually buys it. 1/2 of our contribution, and then once he's open for business, the other half. So just wanted to make that point of clarification. And Andrew's here if anyone has any questions, but the deal is signed, and he's got a copy, and we do too.
Thank you, Mr. Weldon.
Thank you, sir.
Approval of the claims.
I'll make a motion, we approve the claims.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? All right, moved and seconded to approve the claims. All in favor? Okay. Sorry.
We ain't spending any money.
We're all old up here, Randy. We can't hear very well. Any comments from the audience?
I just have one comment. While Mr. Seymour's guy's back to me. When it comes to the water and sewer, we worked out with this commission some time ago that when it comes to all the properties, redevelopment has a number of properties in its inventory. And so this commission said that in order to equally advertise or present equal opportunity to the people interested in those properties, would the utilities participate in all of the donation of the labor associated with bringing water and electric equally and sewer to those properties? It seems, and I've talked with Mr. Seymour about this, and I'm somewhat aware of the properties that have the drainage issues. Maybe it should be considered that storm sewer be one of these things that the city work with that department on to try to equally provide all of the properties the same kinds of services that you do another. One of the key points in utility service for the city is that we don't have a difference in the types of services that we provide the customer base. So if there's a customer that has water, sewer, or electric, one of our objectives is to make sure that all of the customers have the same quality and same types of services that we provide one customer as we do another. And so just a suggestion that maybe when it comes to storm sewer, that might help solve some of the problems. It'll be a little more work on the front end because it has to be budgeted, and storm sewer can be expensive. But at the end of the day, the homeowners and the neighbors surrounding those areas will certainly appreciate that, and it'll bring them all up to the same level of service that all of us expect.
Any objections to that? Any comments, any more comments from the audience?
Two little things. One of them is when I first started, we built 3 at a time, had the financing. And what I found is I actually saved money and could build a house a little bit cheaper. Because if I can round up, for instance, my electrical contractor, plumber, and keep them in the same area, it was a benefit to me as far as building that extra house. Now, I understand, and I've had this conversation, but what I would like you guys to do is think about it. But as long as a guy can come in and give you the proof of financing that here's the key with me, and I'm not the one that sets the rules, but I was able to borrow enough money to where I could complete 3 homes. In other words, I didn't get halfway through, stop, wait for a realtor to put a sign up, sell the home, and finish. You're right, I would not do it under that circumstance. But if a guy can come in here and he can say, I can build 2 homes and I can complete them, I can get them done, they're not going to sit there a while waiting. I would like to build 2 homes. Maybe we get, we keep that thing rolling and we do different things like that. That's the only thing I want to say about that. And then I got one other comment. The one thing about guys like Mike, and I know David, know a lot of people, small town. We've all dealt with each other. We've had our good conversations. We've had our aggravating conversations. But here's one thing I want to say. I think you made the right move tonight, but there's a reason why. Guys like Mike and people like him, they move. They do things. They get things done. Sometimes I hear, Paul, this is government. You got to back off a little bit. I have a hard time with that because I'm sitting in one of them seats. I'm government, and I don't want to move like that. I think that we don't have to move like that. We can speed things up a little bit. If you guys want to put a program together, start working on it now. Get it up, get it running, because I'm not disagreeing with you. Not disagreeing with you at all. But if I don't say this, I know good and well 2 months from now we'll ask, hey, how's that program going? But I would like you guys to give him the authority to start on it, working on it, because I'm a believer that, hell, within a month and a half, we should have that program ready to roll, up and running. We've been in office now for 3 years. I think we can make decisions. I think you just made a good one. But if you want to do something, let's get it done. Let's get it done. Because it needs to be done. Ledlow Hill and US 50 are the same in my book. I think the housing program ought to be up there. But all we've ever done is talk about it. We haven't done it. So if we want to do it, let's do it.
I agree, but I have a suggestion. Now, we've talked about these 2 particular houses, okay? Why don't we get the contractors together, the general contractors, the builders, and agree on one electrical contractor, one plumbing contractor, one roofing contractor, and maybe that'll help both of you.
I don't know if that'll work or not.
Yeah, I think that's a little easier said than done.
Well, okay, explain to me.
Dave Staub Construction. First of all, the other steel properties, I don't even know that guy. And
Well, you should meet him.
he built a house next to us on St. Clair year or so ago. I kind of know them, but every contractor that they used was different than what we used. I've been in business for almost 18 years now. I've got pretty much have a set group of guys that they just go house to house with me. And
I understand, but what I'm saying is maybe you two builders can get together and agree on your contractors or whatever.
yeah, that'd be fine if he wanted to use all my guys, but I just think it's Oh, I don't know, but all my guys are from Roar, Lawrenceburg, Bright area.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah,
See what you come up with.
yeah, we'll give that a try.
Okay? All right, thank you.
Well,
Tried his best.
Yeah.
I'd like to see if we could sit down as a group to see if we can work with this down 50, up on the hill
Sure.
situation. See if we can sit down and come up with some plans on that.
Sure.
If we
Why don't
can't,
we-
we can't, but I think we should be
why
able
don't we
to
try
at least
it
look
to-
at it.
Why don't we let Brian put together a skeleton,
Mhm.
and
Got it.
on the 29th, after our executive session or whatever,
Talk about it.
we talk about it.
I think it'd be good to do.
Does that
'cause
make
I
sense
know
to you guys?
A work session after the executive.
Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
We need to
we
branch
talked
out.
about it.
No, we're gonna do.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Sounds great.
Yeah, I just had one other comment too about the contractors. We only had 2 respondents this time, and you know, one of the reasons that we were trying to limit to one developer was because there were a lot participating and the lot sort of limited opportunity. But so in this particular case, you know, for the record, you know, 359 Arch has not been awarded. So if the board thinks about this, would like to take some action, we certainly have a qualified contractor.
I think everybody understands that, but there might be savings for both of you. Okay?
I don't think they're going to do
Let
that.
me give you an example. I used to do electrical work. Used to think I was pretty good at it. But if I buy a roll of 12-3, okay, for your house, and I don't use all of it, I'm gonna charge you for it anyway. So why not talk to somebody and see if you guys can work together, maybe? Just talk, okay? Talking helps a lot. I'll be 73 tomorrow, and I've figured out that talking helps a lot, okay? I expect a cake.
It's in the mail.
But if you sit down and talk to them, you might be able to work something out, okay? If I buy 3-inch PVC for drain, and I have 2 or 3 sticks left over, rather than charge you for them, maybe I can charge him for them.
Same price.
Might work.
Same price.
Pardon me?
Same price.
Well, no, not if he's paying for all. But just try it, see what happens. Maybe it won't work, but maybe it will.
Brian, I got a question for Brian.
Go ahead.
I wanna go back to the Steel property.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get involved in the problem of the drainage on the house?
No, I did not. I am aware of it. I am kind of like Paul mentioned earlier, you know, we sell the lot, and that from that point forward, you know, it's a private deal between private people. I do agree, though, if we know that there are problems, that we should take that into consideration
But
when we're awarding
But
properties in the
evidently,
future.
he's decided that if he gets an occupancy permit, that he's not liable for anything after the house is sold?
I don't, that's what somebody said. I don't know that to be true or not true. I just, you know, you can ask him that question. He has a project pending,
All right,
and it hadn't been awarded.
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you all for coming.
Good meeting.
That's very much fun. I can't have Mr. Seymour sitting there
Right.
making off.
We can't do all the talking. Good meeting, Randy.
Good meeting, sir.
Yes, sir.
That's great, all right.
Chairman, happy birthday, good meeting.
Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Happy birthday to you.
To me, it added another spin, rather than,
Kelly?
because I was,
Seymour Senior? Mr. Cross? Good meeting, sir.
Good and back.
Thank you.
it added another spin to it. Okay, then I can deal with it.
Do something if we keep going that way like we're doing.
And there is need for buy the same 50% versus 35%.
It's uncharted water.
35% was like 104,000.